Hey, practice owners, welcome back to another edition of Coming Back Stronger. I'm very honored and thrilled to have on our guest today, probably recognizing Dr. Mike Abernathy. He has been a very long-time friend of the Profitable Dentist. And if you're even on social media, he's just one of those voices that, you know, when the chatter starts to get a little crazy and he chimes in, you know, I think people step back and say, that makes sense. So we reached out to him and asked if he would help, you know, for anybody who's watching this and, you know, we're in week 5, I think. I literally forgot, I got Wednesday confused with Thursday this week. And I think a lot of people are in that. So especially practice owners who went to dental school, just want to see patients, but now they're stuck with all this other junk and they got a date to come back. They're not sure what to do about that. Maybe they've been communicating with their teams, maybe they haven't, but there's this anxiety and stress that comes with it. And so Dr. Abernathy, I thought you were the first guy that popped in my mind. And I said, if anybody can sort of bring some sense to this, it's you. So thanks for coming on today.
That's a scary thought. I just got through doing 2 or 3 of these on different topics. And then a lot of times when they do these programs, they have a specific point of view. Like if it was a CPA interviewing you, or if it was a clinical person, or if it was someone with multiple practices or whatever. So this will be interesting. I've always loved the Profitable Dentist. You know, more than just the Profitable Dentist, it was the people that frequented the Profitable Dentist. It was that network of people, just a lot of nice folks.
Well, and there are our readers of the magazine are typically they're practice owners, and that's how I think you knew Woody very well, Dr. Woody Oakes. And we, you know, even though Woody is just not really able to be a part of the organization, we kept him involved as long as we could from a content standpoint. And he would write and he would do video, and that's become kind of too much of a physical struggle. But what I wanted to do is, I think it's very important to keep him sort of the DNA of Woody and how he approached things baked into what we do here. And it really is practice owners helping practice owners. So there are a lot of really high level business skills. You know, I've had a lot of dentists say, should I get an MBA? And, you know, my answer is sort of categorically no. You should understand your business and you should understand the fundamentals like any small business person. But an MBA is, you know, it's not like a DDS or DMD. You're not coming out of it with a list of protocols and skills and, you know, you take an exam and you pass and you don't. In business, you're going to have a test every day that says, is this the best way to do this? Should I spend this money over here? Should I spend it over there? You know, those are things that are foreign. So Woody had a really good way of understanding that firsthand. I mean, he struggled in the beginning, figured it out. And then I think what he did well was just bring people together who would share it. And sort of the Destin meetings, the magazine itself, the newsletter at the beginning, It all grew organically. I mean, literally from Woody printing it is in the basement of the practice. And I think that's important to keep. You know, it's still practice owners, you know, and it's, you know, one-man shop. It's very cottage mom and pop industry still. And I think, so we try to bring it down to that and appreciate every contribution you've made so far and what we're about to do.
Okay, great.
So if I'm a practice owner, I'm a dentist, and you know, I really just wanted to see patients, and this thing came along, and now, you know, we know how PPP loans work, and we know all this junk. We're now talking about coming back. Some states, you know, we were just talking ahead of time. I got a notice from the state of Floyd County in the state of Indiana. We're coming back at midnight on Sunday. So we now have some of those definitives. But if you don't have that, or if you've been extended 2 weeks, whatever it is, what can somebody who really wants to see patients but has all this going on, what are some things they might do to sort of help get themselves ready to come back?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about probably should have been talked about a month ago. I mean, the biggest shame, I mean, you know, back when we ended up 3 recessions in 2009, I thought my practices and the owners and the clients and stuff like that we had all over the United States and I did a seminar today in Australia and one in the Philippines. It's all bad everywhere. But the biggest shame would be that if you come through this and you come out the other end and you're not changed, there's a problem, a huge problem, because dentistry will never be the same. This is not a perfect storm. I mean, perfect storms, yes, I mean, hurricane hits New Orleans, a horrible loss of life, but they were able to rebuild, and this is climate change. And again, I wasn't really worried that much about the pandemic so much. I've been waiting on a financial recession again that we've artificially put off. Mm-hmm. I wasn't thinking that a pandemic would bring it in, but we've never had. I mean, I've been in dentistry since I was 15. Lab technician, went to dental school. I've owned a bunch of practices in every state, and this is a big challenge. But we should have learned some things back in 2009.
Okay,
and we forgot again, and so I don't want the doctors to forget this, because it's totally different. I like kind of what John Maxwell said. He said, in life there will be lessons, lessons in life. You'll learn the lessons, and if you don't, if you make mistakes, they get repeated. If you fail to learn the lessons, they keep repeating the lesson until you get it, but each lesson gets harder, and then the universe kind of adds pain. And this is a lesson that we all need to learn. Mm-hmm. You'll know that you've actually learned the lesson when your actions change. We're a real vulnerable profession for a lot of reasons, but this pandemic is almost a do-over button for a lot of doctors. And your question was, what could they do? I mean, surely they've already taken care of their rent and their mortgages and done all those things that we did 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. Surely they've furloughed or fired or allowed their staff to go unemployment. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you've done a seminar on the PPP, right?
Yeah, only the higher level concept. And what's interesting is, docs understood they had PPE, the staff, they had a class in it back in hygiene school, or, but it was never sort of at the forefront of what it's going to be now.
No, and I'm talking about the financial package of the
PPP. I'm sorry.
Yeah, PPP. Sure. Yeah, I mean, and so it sounded like at first you made a slight comment about it, so I'm assuming you got it.
Yeah, last three I've had back to back to back. So that's, and maybe that's something we segue into, I think, at the end. Yeah, PPE is like the hot topic. Only because
and I can help you with that too.
Yeah, docs are saying we're going to wait until we get guidance from somebody.
Right.
Oh, that might be 3 months from now. So, but yeah, the PPP loans, I think, are all, I mean, my opinion is it's all about timing. If you took it a month ago, you're 4 weeks in. And if you're not coming back for 2 weeks, that's a thing that I think a lot of docs haven't thought about. So, but yeah, so maybe that's a way I'd like you to weigh in on your opinion.
Well, no, it's not that. It is the thought of borrowing money to do this. Even if there is a slight chance of getting repayment, I probably would not suggest it. And not the reason you might think. The reason we didn't learn our lessons in 2009 is the vast majority of us are pretty non-assertive. I'm afraid when you have kind of a life vest thrown at you that just keeps you afloat, which is that PPP, you fail to make the difficult decisions you really needed to make.
Okay.
Your practice isn't coming back the way it was. It's not going to be going gangbusters the minute it opens. I think it's going to be scary because for about 2 weeks, it may go pretty gangbusters, and then it may drop down to below 50%. I'm expecting even in November that you will be at 50% capacity. And so all of these things mean that you're going to have to act now. You're not going to be able to react later. And this infusion of money that you'll probably have to repay is going to put a Band-Aid on something. It just kind of treats the symptoms. It's just like aspirin, but it does nothing to cure the disease. And the disease is we're a vulnerable profession. We don't have real strong business sense, and we need to start thinking about that. I think if I wanted to get a doctor in front of me, I'd want to ask him, I said, have you started talking to your staff about how you would come back, right? I mean, what would that look like? And I know you've got practices, so you're a practice owner. And so were you planning on just hiring everybody back at their, you know?
I'm not, but I have.
Okay.
I didn't go to dental school.
Okay. Well, you need to stop thinking like a dentist if you're listening to this. Okay.
Right.
Okay. We could do a whole program on stop thinking like a dentist.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what's going to happen. Okay. On day one, even if you've been seeing emergencies, probably all you need is an assistant and you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, if somebody shows up, great. Hopefully, you know, your hygiene you've been pushing it back and you think it's going to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
I made some notes before this, and I want to pull it out because I started thinking, you know, let's like the consumer just a little bit. I think what's going to happen, and you could probably say this about every consumer out here,
Mm-hmm.
they may have been out of work.
Right.
If they've been out of work, they're naturally going to kind of guard their cash.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at what the normal consumer pays and rates as important, Netflix is number 4 and dentistry is number 24.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, and so if you've, you know, and I realize timing's kind of an issue here too. I mean, if you've been out for 2 months, or maybe it's going to be another 3 weeks or whatever, but let's say you don't get back till June, you've got the month of June to get all the people that have insurance to get their teeth cleaned, or you can't do 2 cleanings this year because they have to be 6 months apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's lost at least a third, maybe half of your hygiene income. Okay, so you're thinking about coming back. Okay, you've done everything you can do. You haven't marketed. You've postponed paying people. You've gotten your mortgages set back and everything. But I doubt that you've actually sat down and talked with your staff seriously about
right
this might look like. So I'm thinking first day you need 1 employee. Let's say it really started coming back, so now you need 2. You need a front desk. I probably wouldn't even hire a front desk back. I'd probably hire another assistant that could work front desk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then the point being, one of the things we don't do well is even before the fall, the practices weren't that good. I mean, the average dentist doesn't have any profit. I mean, if I asked a dentist, if we were just sitting in a deal, drinking a beer, I said, so, you know, how much profit did you have last year? And they go, oh, I made, and they give you a number.
Right.
And I said, well, what percentage? They said, that's 25, 30% what we did. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, that 25 or 30% isn't profit. It was, and you worked hard for it, and you were paid well, but that was just your income from working. That's what you were paid to work. If you weren't there, you would have to pay that to get somebody else to do that. So that wasn't profit. If your overhead 70%, even probably 67%, there's no profit in your practice.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, it's just not there. And so we didn't have a good business model before. This is going to really challenge us. If you come out of this and try to do what you did 60 days ago and make it, you're going to go under.
Right.
Okay. So you come back. So you got to decide who's going to be that first person. And let's say you had 3 or 4 assistants. Who are you going to pick? I mean, so if it was me, it might not be the person that's been there the longest.
Okay.
Like, my wife has gotten me to watch The Voice a little bit. I hate watching stuff like that. But I kind of figured out a little bit. I don't understand it completely. But they were having these battle rounds, and evidently they've selected these singers, you know, to be on their team, but they actually have to compete against each other, and you can only pick one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
They're either off the show or somebody steals them. Yeah. And so the whole time, the coach is thinking they were both great singers, but I got to pick the one I think can compete against the other coaches.
Right.
So when I look at bringing a staff person back, it's going to be that assistant, but it might not be the longest employed. It might be the one I see that will do anything, that lives and breathes the culture, that wants to grow the practice back real quick. When I bring the front desk person back, it would never have been my office manager. I don't need an office manager with 2 employees. And then I would always create a matrix where, I mean, in an ideal situation before this started, you should be producing around 20 to 25,000 per employee. Mm-hmm. You actually get to fix this stuff. Okay. So let's say you decided I'm going to work 5 days, not 8 hours a day, but demand is going to create the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume that kind of a whatever it takes mentality, a start over kind of deal. In fact, a start over where not like your first practice, but you bought it from another doctor, an older doctor that retired.
Mm-hmm.
So you're buying your own practice, but I want you to look at it like you're the buyer. The bank is going to give you the money, but you got to make sure this is the one. And so you need to self-diagnose yourself, look at these things, and I can send you some links that'll help them self-diagnose. They don't have to send it to me. I can send it to you, and you can do it. I don't want to see their emails. Okay. But they can self-diagnose themselves, and they're going to look at this practice and go, there's some good things. Okay. I mean, doctors, you're the number one reason that you do well, but you're also the number one reason you suck sometimes. I mean, you're it's a yin and yang deal. But you look at this and go, okay, when I look at buying practices, I'm looking at staff. I mean, if someone's getting paid $39 an hour and they're an assistant, I'm kind of thinking, what's up? Okay, there's something weird about that. Or, and I know I'm going to have to retain the right people to keep the patients in my practice, but I need to look at the overhead. I need to look what the hours they picked. I mean, I'm looking for the upsides. I mean, maybe they don't take insurance. I could take insurance. Maybe they see kids. I could see kids. What if they don't place implants or do root canal? I could do that. I could work Friday or Saturday. Okay. So I need you to look at it that way when you start back. Be real critical. There's going to be good things. We don't want to change those, but there's going to be things you fall short on. If I were starting a practice from scratch, I'm always open Saturdays, 8 to about 1. I'm always open Fridays, 8 to 5, and I'm always open 2 or 3 hours Monday morning. The rest of the time are going to be peak demand times, which are either going to be about 7 to 9 or 3 to 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And we're only going to work about 34 hours, okay, right at first. Okay. Now, you're coming back to a new practice. Schedule is one of those things you're going to have to look at. Am I willing to work the hours that are most comfortable for the consumer? Okay, now, we said they've been out of work, they're guarding their money, their budget is horrible. Believe me, going to the dentist is not going to be a priority to them. Mm-hmm. So what if they wait 6 months to get their teeth cleaned? Okay, it's not that big a deal. Okay, to them. Okay, it is to me because it's money. Okay, they're going to be busy catching up on their life, right? I mean, you mentioned kids, you mentioned stuff like that. They're going to be skeptical or fearful of undue, unnecessary exposure to this virus. I mean, the facts are, if you look at respiratory viruses in the past, RSV, it took 15 years to come up with a vaccine. They just got it. Okay, they're saying 18 months, and from what I'm reading on the science side of European publications, that's like a popsicle's chance on a sidewalk in Dallas in August. Okay, it's scary. So there is absolutely no cure. There's no vaccine. Okay, so these people are worried about exposure. They're more educated about health. I mean, they've been sitting watching TV and someone else has been controlling their thoughts. They have higher expectations when they come back. And I think they're going to be less patient and have a higher anxiety. You also are going to have to be very careful as you do these PPEs or change your protocols and stuff, that there absolutely are no surprises. And we can talk about that in just a minute, okay? I would send a pre-visit instructions to all the patients that start coming back so that they're not surprised by anything that they see or do. But when they come back, absolutely, everything needs to be changed. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But, okay, back at the staff, we're hiring them back. Okay, so if you were working 5 days and the matrix that we had to pass through was about $20,000 production per employee. Literally, I think I could go to my office and work a few days a week and do 20 grand without an assistant if I didn't have the medical legal liability of not having somebody there making sure I didn't do something that somebody claimed I did. Okay. But so if you work 5 days, that's about $1,000 a day. Okay. Let's say you only work 26 hours, but you work 5 days, $1,000 a day. That's one person. Okay. So you do $2,000 a day. That's 2 employees. Okay. So it might be a front desk and now again, if you have some hygiene, that might be the 3rd person you hire, but it may only be part-time. And then how are you going to pay them? Let's say we look at this practice. I know it's your practice, but it's a new practice, and you're looking at it going, okay, my overhead is pretty high. It's like 75%. Okay. And the cost for the employees is 34% or 35%. Mm-hmm. Let's say you hired all of the staff back at what they were being paid because you got the PPP. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hired them back, and you only have 50% demand. You remember when you got your master's, right. Supply and demand.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. You only 50% demand. Okay. So that means that 35% now becomes 70% overhead just for staff. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's not going to work. Okay. So I'm thinking you're going to have to phase them back and let demand create the hiring, the workforce for you. And again, my suggestion is if you will not violate that 20,000, and that's going to be hard to do. Mm-hmm. The thing that's going to be weird is I think the first 2 weeks, there'll be some pent-up demand with people who have temporaries that you're going to see crowns, right. People that had already paid for treatment and really wanted it and thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get it before I have to go back to work or whatever. Mm-hmm. But 2 weeks, could be 2 weeks, and then it could drop down to where you only have 40% of your production again. Don't be lulled into a sense of security and hire all those people back. Okay? Do it like we did when we first started out. I mean, if you need to clean somebody's teeth and you only have one cleaning that day, don't bring a hygienist back. Mm-hmm. Then how are you going to pay them? Okay? I mean, I can only think of a couple of ways. You can pay them what you've been paying them and get what you've been getting. Mm-hmm. Let's say you were spending 35%. I could say, okay, I'm going to bring all you back. We were spending 35% of every dollar we, 35 cents of every dollar we collected, I was paying you before. I'll do that again. Whatever we get, you get 35 cents, 35% of it. Okay, now they make less. Now there's consequences and there's risk on both sides. Mm-hmm. Or we just bring them back and pay them whatever. Hygienists normally are paid hourly. I'm going to get in trouble with hygienists, but I'm going, are you kidding me? Do this. I mean, if you're self-diagnosing yourself, do this. Run a production by provider report for 2019. So we've got Julie and Susie and Becky, what they produced. Now, it was the end of the year, no COVID back then. It's the end of the year. Have your CPA give your yearly total pay for all your staff, which Julie and Susie and Becky will be in there. Okay. Now, they were paid this much and they produced this much. Mm-hmm. Divide what they were paid by what they produced, and it converts that to a percentage. The average I'm seeing is 41 to 67%. Okay. Their collections is going to paying them. That's not sustainable long term. You're never going to get an opportunity to correct some of these things. And so I just finished an article I haven't published. I'll send it to you when we get through about hygiene on commission.
Okay.
I'll be glad to. Okay.
And I'm a big fan of that, again, because what you're saying is exactly, you asked me the question. No, you don't bring everybody back. You walk them. I say you walk them up. So as your revenue walks up, now your people walk up. Your revenue walks up, and you really said it well. It's like starting your practice over. When you started your practice, you didn't say, all right, I'm planning on doing 2.5 million, and I'm going to need 3 hygienists, 5 assistants, a front desk person. So I'm going to go ahead and hire all these people. You know, if I pay them, the patients will come. No, they won't. I mean, I know practices where the wife was the front desk person for the first year. Maybe that needs to happen again. I mean, there are all kinds of scenarios, but to your point, you can't be paying out this much and bringing in this much. And that's right. That's a conflict, I think, in that dentist mindset, not the practice owner mindset. The practice owner mindset says, can't be paying out more than I'm bringing in. The dentist mindset says, here's how we do it. And I'm going to have my assistant do this while I go back and, read Dr. Abernathy's article in the Profitable Dentist magazine, because I'm halfway through it, and call me when you're done. You can't do that anymore. And I think a lot of practice owners struggle with that. They want to flip the switch and go back to the way it was. And I think I think you hit the nail on the head.
And I like your analogy of a light switch, because this is not going to be a light switch. When
Right.
they say go, it's not dependent on whether you're ready or not. It's like,
Right.
you know, we've talked kind of about staff, but you know, you look at the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to be reluctant. I mean, they're talking about putting the football season off till 2021, till wintertime. I mean, they're talking about, I mean, they can't have a Republican Democratic convention. Nobody's going to go.
Right.
You know, it's like, can you imagine? I mean, no one's going to want to go into a restaurant and some guy with gloves and a mask on hand you a plate and you have to social distance. I mean, I go to a restaurant and take it out sometimes, but I mean, this is going to change. This, as I say, it's not the perfect storm. It's climate change. And the people that cling to the old traditional model of dentistry will be the last ones to change and the first ones to go under.
Yeah.
And I know I'm saying like, wah, wah, Debbie Downer, but I mean, you know, you walk into this with your eyes wide open. If you prepare, okay, I'm kind of one of those, I want to say I'm a prepper, but I do kind of prepare. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's funny. We had the family over and my wife or somebody there needed something. I said, oh yeah, I've got that out in the garage. They're going, why would you have that out there? Well, you know, I might need it sometime, you know? And so my son, he goes, am I the only person here surprised that he has that out there? So, I mean, this was not a surprise. I mean, certainly closing our doors was, but it didn't really affect, you know, it wouldn't have affected me at all, really, in the scheme of things, because again, I want my staff to be the highest paid staff anywhere. Mm-hmm. I need a really strong culture. I need my overhead in the 50 to 60% range. Mm-hmm. So I want all those things. And with that, you know, you can come back quicker because you're going to be, it's not, you know, when you think about setting goals, it's not actually accomplishing the goal. I mean, that's what you want to do, but it's actually becoming the person it takes to set the goals and work towards that. If you fall a little short, you're still better off. Right. And so the things we're talking about, I don't want you just to cut the deal off here and go, well, he's you know, he's just being really negative about everything. Mm-hmm. I am kind of a glass half full sometimes. I mean, every August and September when production kind of fell off a little bit, I thought, oh my gosh, they know I'm a horrible dentist and they're never going to come back. I mean, I can't watch football because when they huddle up, I think they're talking about me. But other than that, on business side, I pretty well was sure that whatever came up, we could make it work. And sure that we can come out of this even stronger, but it'll be for the few, not the many.
We're in total agreement there.
Okay, that herd mentality won't work here.
No, and I really do. I think it is. I think that you said something earlier on about the vulnerability of this profession, and I think that's it's the rut and the routine that you get into, and you're comfortable, and so you should be doing 40% margin, and you're doing 20, and you didn't notice it, and you know all these things crept up. So so now to get it back into shape, it's going to take a lot of things you haven't done since you started your practice.
Well, and you know, if we look at even associates, okay, because we got, you know, staff, you know, and again, I'm kind of thinking office manager and hygienist, I mean, be the last to go. Mm-hmm. I'm back. And just because it's going to be a more basic, maybe only the new patients we get are emergencies, you know, we're going to grow. It'll be the patients of record that are solid gold.
Right.
We have to work that, okay, to get them back. And the trick in marketing that is always going to be, you know, kind of perception. There's reality, there's perception. Mm-hmm. And that perception is being dictated now by scientists and crazy politicians and word of mouth and supposition. It's our job before we come back to change that perception in our favor. Now, you follow Facebook. Mm-hmm. I first started out, they were pointing the finger at hygiene as being the single vector of the spread of the virus. Okay. Now, that's bullshit. You know, but excuse me, I coughed there, but you know, it's just. But again, perception's everything, and so our consumers are going to look at us different, and it's our job to guide that perception. And I don't think it'll be that difficult to do, because the people that would do this, you'll be such a minority. I mean, when you come out of this, I mean, I would want to be positioned as the expert, validity. And, you know, with most doctors, it's pretty easy to do that. We want top of the mind awareness in the demographic we're in. So again, part of diagnosing yourself, if you were going to buy that practice, would be, what kind of demographic is there? So you go to zipwho.com and look at it. And then you can also, let's say we pull that up and it has medium income. It's got cost of living. It's got, you know, number of homes actually owned. It's got college education. It's got age, number of people in the zip code, all that. And then we look at the practice. And let's say it's our practice we're looking at, but we're buying this practice, our practice. We'll look at it when the average age is 55. There, but the average age actually outside your door is 36. Okay. And we look, like EagleSoft is the practice. No, I mean, patient analysis report. Dentrix is practice analytics report. Open Dental doesn't have that report, but you can look it up, but it'll have the number of patients by zip code, number of patients by age, male to female, insurance, no insurance, and the number of patients that are active that don't have appointments. If I look at the demographics of the practice and it doesn't, pretty close to what it is around it, there's a certain, I mean, that's good for me because I know I can attract the largest segment of the population. Now, when we come back, the way you come back and the way you become this expert will be different for every demographic. And so it should dictate how you approach this. I've just been talking, so would you like to ask a question or something?
No. You're.
I'm a little bit
I even got
just from doing these deals and.
No. So I take a lot of notes with you. I even got out the highlighter, so I'm making sure I cover those.
Okay.
And we'll include a lot of this in the show notes, but also you touched on a lot of great things that I think a lot of practice owners don't even think about. There again, the light switch. I heard somebody the other day say it's not a light switch; it's going to be a dimmer switch. And not only that, but it's going to be a dimmer switch that goes like this for a while. And
it may be broken, and you're going, "Why isn't this thing making the room brighter?"
You have to go turn the breaker on, and that's, I think that's the important thing. That for somebody who went to Indiana University School of Business, that's how business works. But for somebody who went to dental school, there's always structure. There are always boundaries. There's always a list that I follow. And that's the challenge right now. That I think you're almost going day to day to day to day. You end the day and think about, okay, what I think tomorrow's looking like. And if it looks like that for 3 days, then I bring back an assistant who's also the person answering the phone, because I don't have enough patients for her to be busy full time. So now I've got half phone, half front desk, half assistant. But you approach it that way, and that's hard for a lot of dentists, I think.
You've heard of the OODA loop, right? OODA, where it was a pilot of a commanding officer for Vietnam, but kind of in that era where it was observe, orient, decide, and you've heard that before.
Yes.
I mean, this is a time where you can learn a lesson that things don't stay the same. The one constant we've had in the industry is change. It's just that it's happening quicker right now, and we have to adapt. And so a mentality of, okay, this isn't exactly the same game I played yesterday. I wrote an article I sent out to my clients called "How Do You Play the Game?" And it kind of, I was in the infinite wisdom of our politicians and government officials, knowing that people my age are susceptible to dying with this crap. They closed down all the dental offices and close all the schools and put people out of the work. And then the parents of the kids that have them load them up and send them to their grandparents. And our grandkids are going to kill us, okay? Or I'm going to kill one of them. And again, it was one of those things where they wanted to play a game with Poppy. And I started thinking about it. So the whole article was just about, okay, how do I play a game? Well, I've got a little bit of a little guy mentality. Oh, I got a big little guy mentality. Okay. So I wasn't going to play. I didn't want to play the game with him. I'm sorry. I'd go out and play outside, but I don't want to play a game. But once I decided to do it, I was going to crush them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to crush those 5 to 10-year-olds, those 6 or 7 kids. Okay. And it's just, again, it's looking at the broad picture and then looking at the specifics and looking how the game's played. And there's wild cards and there's forks in the roads, and you have to constantly adapt to this. And so right now, by changing that perception, we're going to have to do certain things. So can we talk about that for a few minutes?
Yes, please. And I think that's really the spot on. You know, there are a lot of docs who think, you know, as we said, they think it's a switch. And I think the first thing, you hit it. You can't think that way. You've got to get that out of your head. Normal, or maybe here's a way to put it. Normal is January 1st of 2021. So between now and then, there's a lot of junk in between, but let's don't, and be working towards it, but don't be disappointed if in August, you know, you're still figuring it out. Maybe it's not day to day, but it's probably week to week, and then month to month. And then, you know, and then we have a big thing that, you know, I'm a big believer in milestones like that. So January 1st, we roll over, we get our heads back to where they were, and now we start feeling normal. But it is not today, and it is not when you come back, and it's not when you come back for a while. So yeah, kind of nuts and boltsy things they can do would be awesome.
I took a slide out of something Howard Ferrand said, you know, I don't know where it came from. It's just, you know, you get things in the mail and went, oh, that's an interesting statistic. It was 51% of Americans' primary concern with their dentist is if you've had a patient in your practice that's had COVID-19. 43% aren't sure you're following the CDC guidelines.
Okay.
6% are unsure if you even have been issued protocols. You know, I'm worried about that too. We have issued protocols to spread COVID, and 40% think that you have no idea how to prevent the spread of the virus. And so it's this perception. And again, I think it's, you know, when they flip the light switch on, what you're going to see is a bunch of people with PTSD. This pandemic, this hysteric COVID pandemic is going to leave a scar. And again, it's going to change the way people look. That's why they're going to be less patient and have a higher anxiety. We used to say that, you know, in case presentation, it was cost, time, fear, and then you add trust. Okay, so it's still that, but the fear isn't fear of dentistry. It's fear of disease, okay? And cost is going to be huge because they don't have money. They may even be out of business. Out of a job that they have no benefits now, okay? I mean, everything's going to change. And so, again, we're going to have to add a little bit of time to the time we spend with our patients to talk to them seriously about how they feel about this. One of the things I would do right now is if you've got 10 patients that you think just love you and think you walk on water, call them and ask them if we can see patients on Monday, what would be your concerns and fears? Okay. Need to know, because I want to make sure that because I figure you're as normal person as I know. I know there'll be some crazies on both sides of it. You know, oh, who cares? Or, you know, the other, like, I'll never go to a dentist again. Okay, whatever it is. But again, you need to assume if you have 10 people say those things, whatever they say, that we need to do something now to counteract that, to change that perception and help them be happy they're coming into our office. So I already mentioned this, no surprises. And I think the pre-visit instructions will change things. I've asked all of our clients to do a video, and now they've been dripping on the patients every week. Okay. I've even given some of my clients recipes I said, I don't want it to be about dentistry. I want it to be about appearing caring and compassionate. I made our doctors call anybody that was 60 or older. They called them and checked on them. Okay. But I've asked them to make a video, and I don't think our patients actually know what we actually do already. I mean, compared to a medical office, I mean, give me a break. Butcher paper is not infection control.
Right.
You've been to a doctor, they've got a butcher roll on the end of the table. They pull it out. You put your butt on there. They take your rectal temperature and all that stuff like that. And after the end, they peel off the paper and the next patient sits there. They wipe nothing down.
Right.
Don't clean anything. It's just butcher paper. Okay. So what I had suggested them do is remove everything from the operatory. No clutter. Nothing is stored in an operatory. That concept is horrible, and the only reason it's been perpetuated is because dental suppliers want us to buy cabinets and crap from them when it should all be tub and tray setups, everything brought in, everything brought out, much like a hospital room. Now, when I was in school, I worked in a hospital. I didn't work in a surgical room. I cleaned up the surgical room after they made a mess. But literally, they had a light, a stainless steel table, and when I went in there to clean, I had to start in the ceiling, and they had kind of a Swiffer mop sprayed with infections, and I had to go, like you've seen people clean a window where they squeegee and go back. I had to go all the way across like that, and then I take another and go down the walls, and then I had to mop the floors, and then they used a vapor to kill everything before they could use the operatory, the surgical suite again. Okay. So what I want you to do is everything's gone. I want everything barriered. Plastic on everything. The cheapest place to find barriers is a dry cleaning supply. The long coat bags will fit over the patient chair. The sweater bags will fit over your stools, and they'll fit over your delivery systems, and the shirt bags will fit tub and tray setups. Okay, so everything's barriered, okay? And there's a patient in the chair with a bib, and the assistant's wearing a mask and gloves and everything, and you have on mask and gloves, and if you want to put on shield and hat, whatever you want to do, okay? But you're leaving. So the video kind of starts now. She's setting the patient up and just disappears from the frame for a second, and she comes back in and she cleans the room. All the barriers are removed. They set top of the final barrier with the tub and trays, fold the stuff up. She carries it out. She comes back. She sprays everything down. She wipes it off. She brings new barriers in, new handles for the lights, the keyboard, stuff like that. And you could speed it up. So it's only maybe a minute.
Right.
We know everybody should be doing that. They're doing it. But our patients don't know we do that. I think that would make you look like you walk on water. I mean.
Yeah. And you've become, so the idea of infection control is that we take the worst case scenario and we build a system around that, so that if we've covered the worst case scenario, if we covered, HIV and AIDS, which is where a lot of this came from. Ironically, the hysteria back then, if people, if they don't remember, in about the late 80s and around 1990, came from patients who died going to a dental office. 6 patients died. Now, as it turns out, it's a wacky story, and you can Google this, but do you know this? Do you know the whole story?
But in 1992, someone started a rumor in McKinney, Texas, with 15,000 people that I had AIDS.
Oh my God! Well, so the hysteria around dentists and AIDS was
exactly the same.
And it turns out it was a dentist guy. It was the first clinical transmission, and he was injecting them with.
He was purposely doing it.
Yeah. So that aside,
crazy guy.
So what happened was I talked to a friend of mine last week. And he said, and he practiced, and he also taught at University of Kentucky. And he said at the time I started to draw blood and have my staff's blood tested every quarter, so that I could say, they are AIDS free. Now that seems wacky right now with us talking about it, but in 1987, 88, 89,
early 90s,
got it, and oh my gosh, somebody got it at a dental office. Are you kidding me? And so he said, all I wanted to do was go overkill. Everything's covered, the worst case. And then I can back off of that as we figure out, well, that's a little overkill. But our patients see that as we're safe. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Think about how many times you heard the word. In fact, Google, if 2 months ago you Googled dental aerosols, it comes up like 6 times. Now it trends on Google. And those are things that we never thought about. But now our patients, our customers, and I wrote down here, somebody made a statement the other day that said, the president or your governor or the ADA, they're not deciding when your patients come back. Your patients are deciding when you reopen. And if they're willing to come back, you're open. As you sort of corral the ones who want to come back and the ones who don't, that's what determines how you come back. And part of that is feeling safe, whatever that looks like.
And that's the perception is right. We're the safest place around. And, we do these things. We set ourselves apart, become the expert. At that time, again, they started this rumor. I went from having, 40 patients a day, 3 or 4 hygienists, to having 0. And on that Friday, I spent $30,000 to put a full page ad in the Dallas Morning News and our local paper, along with my blood test and a letter from my deal, offering a $5,000 reward for the person who started the rumor. And it all went away. And the rumor was started by another dentist.
Oh, you're kidding.
That was almost coincided with the time that we weren't sterilizing our handpieces.
Right.
Or we were disinfecting them and cleaning them and putting all sorts of stuff. But we didn't have ceramic barons. If we put it in our chemclaves, they died after about 7 cycles.
Or not wearing gloves. I mean, they were
not wearing gloves and masks. So that was the reason we stopped wearing slacks and a shirt and a tie. We put on scrubs. We could look like the doctor.
Right.
And so it was very similar to that. And so, but it was the perception that we were working on now that's going to make a big difference. Okay. So no surprises. Certainly when you're seeing emergency patients now, you meet them at the car. You take their temperature at the car. They never sit in the reception room. They go from car to operatory. I would do remote pay.
Okay.
You set that up, remote pay, so that now this is a good way to keep people from not showing up. You do remote pay, they pay, then you make the appointment, and they don't. And you're using the COVID-19, so you don't have to stop at any other place, put your hands on anything, write anything, or you have a little deal attached to your iPad and just do their credit card for them in the operatory. But if you're going to use the reception areas, I'm thinking that you need to barrier every chair. Rearrange them so there's no more than 2 together, put a plastic deal on it, make a big performance out of this of when you come out and get the patient, she gets up, the assistant takes the covering off, wads it up, and the front desk puts another one on. So if anybody else is out there going, wow, these people serious about this, there is hand stations for, the hand scrub everywhere, including inside the bathrooms, outside the front door. I mean, again, we're going to have to play this straight up. I would also, if you're dripping on your clients, on your consumers, on your patients, assure them not only their temperatures will be taken, but our staff's temperatures are taken every morning. Okay. So again, I would do that. Keep about 10 or 15 minutes extra so that someone can take the time in the operatory to answer any questions or any concerns they might have about this. So that, again, you can't pay for marketing like that. If you take the time and they're really inspired and impressed, they'll tell everybody they know, and you'll see it. Consumer hours are going to be important. This is like a startup. You need to work Fridays. You need to work at least a half a day Saturdays. If it all comes back at one time and you're trying to get it done before the end of the June, so we get another cleaning in, so we can do another one in December. Then we used to do this every December, May, and occasionally in August, where we would have a Saturday that we saw nothing but kids. 47% of my patients were kids, even though they didn't need much. And we'd have 10 to 16 hygienists working, and we'd just be wearing polo shirts. There'd be clowns painting their faces and just fun stuff. But we would run hundreds and hundreds of kids through in a single day. You can kind of do that this time because I'm predicting even in October, a 30 or 40% unemployment for dental employees. You'll be able to find people part-time. You'll be able to find people full-time. You'll be able to upgrade your staff, things like that. So again, just a thought. Now on the PPE stuff, I've seen what Rella Christensen said. I've been following the things as best I can. We need to have, if you're not already doing, surely you're doing this. You're doing active water treatment, in your bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Feed your cavitrons and stuff. And you need to kind of remind the patients that the aerosols we produce have no effect on anybody but me. Okay.
Right.
It's, we've got chlorine dioxide in the water. It
Mm-hmm.
kills everything instantly. You might even have a chlorine dioxide mouthwash for them before you start,
Mm-hmm.
and tell them why. The science is good, but it's a little bit, over the top. How? It's like Listerine. Yeah, it kills germs for 30 seconds, and they repopulate in 2 minutes or something. It's not like it kills them forever, like your pet's dead. It's not coming back. So again, I would do the active water line treatment, mouthwash, UVC lights
Mm-hmm.
can be placed right in front of your plenum, right in front of the coil, so that's kind of where the air gathers, and then it's pushed out from the coil through the fan into the rooms. If you set your thermostat at your temperature, but instead of leaving it on auto where it cuts on and off to save electricity, you leave it on fan.
Mm-hmm.
UVC kills dust mites, viruses, bacteria. Okay? But you need to tell them it's not sitting out there like a normal air exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Suggested having a unit for every room. Okay? It'd be nice to have a unit for every room that just had a fan in it. I didn't care if it had a filter in it. You can use the filters and do thicker filters, or they make a system where, and I have this in my home, and I've had it for 10 or 12 years. The ultraviolet light kills everything, but it goes through an electrical field, and it charges every cell that goes through there, negative or positive, and then it has a filter that has the opposite charge, and it captures it. It's like two magnets just going like that. Okay, that works, but you need to tell them about it. Barriers everywhere. I think if you're going to have a reception area and people check in and out, you probably need to have temporary plastic barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a glass company, have them heat up a piece of Lexan or plastic, bend it a little bit so it'll stand up, just to make them feel more comfortable about it. Okay, and you're in your staff too. I think I would try to, in at least the first week or so, when they come in, have them contact you from the car.
Okay.
And do the car thing until it gets busy enough that it's just not viable anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Carpets should have already been cleaned spotlessly. Your walls should have already been repainted. Everything, you need to bring a dumpster and throw all that crap away. That are all the personal photos that you got sitting up, get rid of them. There's no place for them now.
Right.
Hey, I'm sorry, hygienists, take them out of the room.
Yeah.
Okay. It
No
needs to be like
no stuffed animals, right?
Yeah, you need to go from Bubba to ultra modern. Okay. Yeah. Not that the colors aren't warm, but we need to be a little austere about what we leave in the rooms, because you've seen the black light research they've done with even a high-speed handpiece where they work for like 5 minutes, right, and then the people get up and leave and they put the light on them and they're covered from their foot to in their hair, and then the wall is covered except where you blocked the vapor, and it's got kind of phantom shadow behind you and stuff like that. Mask and shields, they're going to require disposable gowns or just wearing a jacket that you take off after every patient. You can't use it again.
That stays in the room.
Well, it doesn't matter if it stays in the room. It has to go into a washer.
Okay.
Use it again. It has to be cleaned.
Okay.
Okay. Or it needs to be disposable. And even a lot of the disposable ones, if you had an extra old autoclave and you just fold them up, you could put them in, you can sterilize them.
Okay. Yeah.
You could chemclave them or something like that. Okay. Steam might not work. It might melt some of the fabrics, but check around. Most of these are made out of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's a paper fiber, and you can sterilize them and use them again. But again, it's going to be, your covering needs to come off and only be used with one patient. Okay. Again, shields are really hard to find that loops will fit under.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at aid a day, they've got some kind of, they're not made for medical. It's kind of like, just kind of looks cool because it has a bit more of a bill.
Okay.
At walking around, it kind of shades your eyes a little bit more. Those will work. If you need something disposable, I've already tried it. Cling free will work to cover a shield, and then you just peel it off. I mean, I kind of thought of that because I still race dirt bikes, and when you're doing cross country, I mean, there's mud flying up, and you've got on goggles, and we have tearaway lenses. It has like 7 or 8 of them. You just peel them off when you can't see it. You just can't wipe your deal. So if you've got one that are permanent plastic, they're not just throwaway stuff, cling wrap will work there. Everything covered in the ops, dripping on the patients. I can't think of it. Can you think of anything specific that you've heard that?
Not really. And so everybody sort of has a view and an opinion. The
Right.
thing that I would chime in as again, in my role, is to keep in mind that these are temporary situations that will become permanent resolutions. And
Right.
just like my friend, the doc, who's taken, staff's blood every quarter to make sure that they don't have the HIV or AIDS virus that we're not sure how people
Right.
get and
Right.
happened, and we read about, people getting it in a dental office. Those are temporary solutions, but they're necessary, as you said. I don't know that a year from now we're going to be putting plastic over chairs. We're not social distancing. Numbers are going to come out, and we figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
Who's really susceptible, who's not. It's okay to sit next to somebody. Right now I have, I always say I own 5 kids, and I own one of every personality that exists. And to them, I mean, I have 23-year-olds who are very healthy. And, this is very serious. He said the other day, he said, I don't want to die from this virus. Now, so when we do the math, we figure out that, I don't know, maybe it's possible, but it's probably more probable that he wins the lottery than he dies from the virus. But, you can't say that today. We don't know. And so we've got to figure out worst case. And if he feels like he might do it and he's our patient, he's making a decision whether to, support us with his wallet, which is what pays the heat, light, rents, and the staff you want to bring back. So all I would say is, and maybe you can sort of add to this, caution practice owners who are listening from doing what you might do as a dentist, which is come up with your new protocol. This isn't your new protocol. This is a temporary situation. It's okay to overkill it and then back off of it as we start figuring it out going through the end of the year. Is there a better way to say that?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think, when I think back though, prior to the AIDS pandemic, we didn't wear gloves, we didn't wear masks, we didn't wear scrubs,
right?
We didn't wear jackets. Now, we still wear jackets, gloves. I mean, you talk to a young doctor, say, yeah, well, I never wore gloves. Ooh, you touch that spit and stuff like that. But, again, that is still a carryover from that. And again, maybe too long. I mean, maybe we should go back to slacks and a decent shirt and then or something. But again, it lasted a long time. I think the thing to stay away from is most doctors have this shiny object syndrome. Yeah. They think if I buy a 3D cone beam, man, I'm going to kill it. Okay. Right. And so right now the shiny object is going to be a vacuum system. And again, the vacuum system that everybody has been touting, they haven't read the details. I mean, this virus that we're talking about is about 0.125 microns down to about 0.06. And these vacuum things that they've got now are really designed for amalgam coverage. And Mrs. Christensen, when she was talking about that, find that any of the vacuum things they used actually drew, were strong enough to capture the water vapor and not get in your way. She felt like it needed to be bigger and about 12 inches away because it's kind of a funnel going out for capture and all it is a shop vac with a HEPA filter. Okay. Right. And so right now they're very, very expensive. I would not go out and invest in that until OSHA
Right.
says, specifically that from now on, this is the way it's going to be. So again, I can think of a lot of ways. The negative pressure rooms, if we have a second spike, you can build one for about $280. If anybody wants to know how to do it, call me. I'll show you how to do it. It takes about an hour to do, and but it basically is a glorified carpet drying fan. You've seen them. They're kind of like a cylinder, and they're flat where the air comes out. You put 2 HEPA filters on each side of it. That's where it's sucking in. And so you build a box with the HEPA filters. It sits in your operatory. You put plastic on I have a Pride system, so there's a power wall with 2 openings that you can go in. Put plastic over one and tape it down. The other one, you tape the top and the side, and then just connect it. And as long as it's negative in the side and it's filtering the air and pushing it out, you have a negative room. We have clients in Pennsylvania that the governor said, you can't even do emergencies unless you've got a negative room. One of our clients just went and rented them. They're about $1,000 a month for a whole setup for a room. But you can buy the real thing for $650 to $1,000, or you actually could make your own. But I would be ready if we have a second spike that you want to keep working. You might have to figure out a way to make that work. Okay, so that you could say, I've got a negative pressure room. So it's not that hard to build. So.
Well, and you said something right there that I would like to explore. We talked about the governor of Pennsylvania said.
Yeah.
The governor of Pennsylvania is an expert on dental aerosols and a dental operatory. There's a lot of that going on right now, and again, I would caution to not be confused by that. If you're in Pennsylvania, that is what you're going to have to do. But if you're in Texas, I wouldn't turn to the governor of Pennsylvania and what he or she has proposed as my new protocol.
But I think your protocols are not going to be statewide in the second pandemic.
Yes. Yeah.
If you think about it, as this goes down, the financial recession triggered by this will start to come up. Pause during the presidential election, but it's in full swing already. We call it a recession, and then it's going to affect us up and down the whole way, and we're just going to have to be ready to act and act quickly. But it's going to be locally that these things come down. Dallas, Texas, doesn't even listen to the governor. The judicial judge decided when we were closing down, period. And he's a hard ass about it. And I think what will happen as we have spikes that they're expecting, they'll be localized to cities. And then the local officials will make those decisions. It won't come down from the whole state. So it's not like that's going to be done that way. Oh my gosh. I have doctors that I lent my Mission dental equipment to so they could go to people that were in assisted care if they had an emergency. Do it. I was thinking of any way that you could make a living during the time. And so the good news is, if all of your patients go away and all of your staff go away, they can't take your education, you could set up in a small shop and make an incredible living and probably figure out this is a lot easier than it was with 20 employees and stuff like that. I kind of like this. Can we say one more thing about the consumer? Because if those 4 things, that fear, money, trust, and time's going to be a big thing to them because they've been off. They come back. They're not going to be able to take off between 8 and 5, because they're afraid they're going to lose their job.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You need to pick hours that consumers want to come in. But, they're out of work. Their benefits may be gone. I would consider, now, gosh, it wasn't that many. It may have been 2 decades ago where we didn't have third-party outside financing. We did it ourselves. But we always collected over 98%. If I've got a long-term consumer, patient, I might even consider to get some work done. And they wanted to do a lot of it, and they could afford to cover the lab fee and stuff. And I would consider carrying it myself. Okay. I would, this is people not just a new patient.
Right.
I would look at the employers in your area. we talk about the employees, but look at the employers in your area. How long is it going to take them to get back to 100%?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Are they going to lay a bunch of people off? You know, keep your finger on that pulse. Patients are going to delay treatment. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're going to delay treatment. They've got less money, and they're going to do what they want to do, but not necessarily all of what they need to do. And you need to be fine with that. You give them what they want first. Later, when they have the money and time, and it's not so fearful, they'll do it other. You might even consider a discount plan. You know, just even for people with insurance. I mean, something to keep the business going, and come across caring, compassion, and for this time, for such a time as this, I'm willing to do this for you so you can get this done. I know how tough this is, and it's tough for us too. So, anyway, if you plan to do the same business model that you had 60 days ago, you can back up to a wall, slide down, put your head between your knees, and kiss yourself goodbye, because I think it's going to be a unique opportunity, but you're going to have to react quickly. You're not. Most doctors are like, ready, aim, aim, aim,
Right.
aim. Okay, it's going to be ready, fire, aim. I mean, I want you to be ready, and then take the shot. As long as you hit the barn, we're okay. Adjust and get a little closer to the target. Okay, and most of us can do that, but it's not what we're used to. So if I said anything that made you feel a little bit nauseated, that's probably the thing you should be doing right now.
Right.
The most gain, you know, best return on investment.
Well, I think the other advice might be and I've heard this. In fact, I heard this on a couple of webinars that we did, and you know, we would have people who would chime in, had questions and answers. And I heard this about 3 times. Today's Friday. I heard it, so it'd be yesterday. About 3 times I heard somebody say, "Oh, now that this is over." And my message was, all right, so I've got some bad news for you. This part is over, but your challenges have just begun. It's just starting. But the good news is, you know, again, we don't know when it ends. We don't know when it shakes out, but we now have momentum, and we have, you know, the guardrails are getting clearer, and the guidelines are getting clearer, and normal's getting closer, and maybe we have another big dip before we get there. But this is sort of the beginning of a whole new situation. The unknown, you know, what the economy is going to do, how the virus spreads, you know, can we get it 3 aisles away in the grocery store, you know, all that junk, that's getting over. But the hard part as a practice owner is now just beginning. And
I think you should think of it as halftime.
Yeah.
You know, like in a football game, you had your ass handed to you.
Right.
You thought you knew, you finally figured you didn't know what you don't know. Okay. Right. And the first half of the game, you know, maybe you didn't play the game so well. Maybe your strategy wasn't so good, but when it first started, it was a surprise, and it was done to us. Mm-hmm. Then we hit a plateau where we're kind of going, okay, I'm kind of getting used to this. I'm getting COVID overload, mm-hmm. and watch the deals like that. But now, okay, we're coming out of the locker room. It's halftime, and this is a game that you haven't chose to play.
Right.
It's a game that you have to play, because if you play it poorly, you'll no longer have a dental practice. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how serious this is. And so it's, you know, change on the fly. It's almost like you're, you know, like up to this point, it's been like, I'm not a big football fan, but the other team was in the red zone, and the defensive team has a red zone defense too. Okay, we're the team in the red zone defense. We've got to fight our way back to get the ball. They're going to hand it to us, but we're going to get probably one time, you know, a set of 4 plays to hit a first down.
Right.
If we don't hit it, you're not going to recover. And so be ready for worst case scenario. Look at profits. Mm-hmm. Look at your cost. Check your staff out and make sure that this is who you want back. Make the difficult decisions. If you don't, somebody will make them for you.
Well, right. The situation will make it for you. And suddenly, I love you just said it. You can still be a great dentist, but you don't get to be a practice owner anymore, or you certainly don't get to own that practice anymore.
And I do believe there's going to be about 10% of the doctors that throw in the towel. I've already talked to maybe 30.
Yeah.
They're just in their late 50s and said, now they still have to work. They didn't save their money.
Right.
They can't retire.
Right.
I'm just not going to be an owner. Now that is going to be bad for the 6,800 graduates that we have this year that can't even finish their senior requirements.
Right.
The state boards won't be until the fall. When they come back, there won't be jobs. I mean, if we're adding staff back and we add back that associate, then I would look at what you pay them, because that commission is an algorithm. It's not 30% or 32%. You've got to make a profit on anybody working there. And if you have an associate, I mean, if I was going to hire you, Steve, and then go, Steve, I want you to be my associate, I'll even let you buy in after a certain period of time, but I need to make 5 or 10% on what you do. I mean, okay. And then I told you that my overhead was 70%. And the most I could pay you is 20 to 25%. I mean, you may have to redo. I mean, you fired these people. You can redo your contracts with them. It's an algorithm. Toyota did this, and I haven't thought about this in 30 years. This was a master's class, an MBA class. How did the auto industry come back? I mean, the Japanese get in. It's either cost-based pricing or price-based costing. Okay, price-based costing is totally different. What the American people have said, what's this going to cost me? Then I'm going to add my profit and I'm going to set the price. There's a book called Profits First that's about 3 years old. And it says, it makes the comment that if we'll start with a profit motive, we won't make the mistakes that we made in the past. You've got to make the profit all along. The Japanese did it by going, okay, what can I price my service? What can I do to attract a certain part of the market? And then I'll figure out how to build a practice that way. So you're building your team, and I'm predicting that associates will be paid less, that staff will make less, and that more in the future of what they make will be based on profit sharing in the form of bonus. That's the fairest way to do it. A whole new program. So anyway, everybody's in it together. So everybody's invested in, for lack of a better term, everybody's invested in the profitability of the business, which means the business needs to go forward. So it's like being on a lake in a boat. The water rises, all the boats rise. Maybe the new assistant has a canoe, and a hygienist has a speedboat, and you've got a big cabin cruiser. But they're going to rise the same. That worked for me for 40 years. And again, we kept overheads between 50 and 55%, and the normal bonus check, which was profit sharing, was about $2,500 to $3,000 a month, every month. And producers thrive and flourish. Non-producers, complain that they're not making as much as the producers. And so for a business guy, there's a very simple answer there. I agree. I don't take it away from the people who are delivering. I help that person find a new place to work. And at the end of the day, so I have one last thing I'd like to throw out to you. And I wrote it down here as we were talking, and it's a thing. So you went to dental school, so you have this, you have that part of it, and you practiced very successfully. And then you've built a very strong, successful organization on the business of business, the business of a dental practice. So here's the thing that I've never understood, with the dentist mindset, the conflict. We've talked a lot about profit here. And I've had this question. I know you've heard it 1,000 times. I've heard it, the same. As soon as I talk about profit, now if I'm at a meeting of the Rotary or whatever, everybody says, "Oh yeah." If I'm at a dental meeting and I say the word profit, suddenly I'm talking about crappy patient care. Maybe I hate my patients. I want to kick them out in the street. That you can't be profitable
and care for your patients at the same time. It's almost as if they don't exist, like they don't fit together. And that's a mentality, I think, that you said it early on. I think it's going to hurt a lot of otherwise good people, good practice owners, good docs, that they can't get over that hump, that somehow profit's bad, which I can tell you right now, you better be figuring that out. That's wrong. But that they somehow are bad and wrong and terrible if they are thinking about their practice ahead of their patients. How do you fix that? How do you get through to that?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, when you first start out, I mean, I don't know any dentist that walked across that graduation stage with their diploma in their hand, jumping up and down and said, I can't wait to be, average.
Right.
Which is $640,000 a year, 65% overhead, one hygienist, 20 to 30 new patients. You know, there are no great solo practices. I mean, in a sense, from a business sense, in that if you could define success any way you want to, okay? I mean, if we had 50 dentists here and I said, okay, what's the characteristic of a successful practice? Probably, because we know black or white what an average practice, they would probably say, no matter what demographic we chose, they would say something larger than that. I mean, like better profit, new patients, longevity of staff, no turnover, constant, steady, consistent growth over the long haul. I mean, quality dentistry, and again, we educated consumers now. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, they didn't know, but now they know, and they vote with their feet and their wallet, and they decide what service and products. Okay, so my point is that I think the process of how we got to where we were is a big problem. We got into college because we made, well, actually, if you had money, you got into college. When I was, put a check on your nose, or a mirror on your nose, check clears, we're good. Okay. But, you got into college because you made better grades. You got into graduate school because you had better grades. But probably the best dentist there would be somebody who had a little bit of art bent. They could draw. Art students can see the finished product before they start. And they made C's and B's, and they were great socially. They get out, start in dentistry, and they realize that this is a consumer-driven business where relationships are important and people skills are at the top. The people that had the great people skills, or you could pretend well in dentistry. And so, again, a lot of doctors just shut down after the first year or 5 years and just went, oh my gosh, I've spent all this money and time. Right. But we were never given at a formative year business strategies and business training. And then we just kind of give up and it's kind of like we're in a stream. And instead of, if you knew swimming against the current was better, you still won't swim against the current. And again, I think once you kind of resign yourself, you have that, I'm just a settler. There was a TV commercial, and I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was Dish TV or something, but it was, it's in black and white. And it says, the kid wants to get Dish TV. He says, son, we're the settlers, And he said,
I've seen that.
Her little hoop, and mother's got her cantaloupes, and I've got my mouth, we're just settlers. Again, I think it's a disservice to your profession and a disservice to your family not to have options as you get closer to the end of your career. I mean, when I wrote that book, The Super General Dental Practice, and I just rewrote it, added a bunch to it, but when I did that, I made a mistake saying super general practice. I mean, if you're doing $400,000 a year and you're taking 200 home and you're saving 20% and you love what you do and your patients love you, that's super general. It's not money. So I want the whole thing. There's not a contradiction between quality and quantity, fast and slow, profit. I mean, and making, a good living. There's a balance in that. So, I don't know how that happened. And it's almost like it's like COVID-19. We shook hands with somebody that believed that, and we got it. Or our first doctor we worked for, and we just have not been able to get it. There's no vaccine for it. Hopefully, and that's why I almost like the fact that we were put out of work for 2 months. If we could have had this conversation, does it look like I have a halo?
Well, where you are right now looks awesome. Yes, it does.
I mean, there you go. I mean, it's just something on the wall.
It's not a halo, it's your aura.
Me. Okay, my aura. Yeah, aura. If we could have gotten to them and spent, 2 months of intensive, maybe only an hour a day, I think everybody would change their perspective. It's like going into the room. What's the old deal where they send people blindfolded into a dark room and they come out and say, what was in there? It's a wall, it's a tree stump, it's a snake, it's a fire hose, whatever. It's still an elephant, okay? Right. But everybody looks at their businesses differently. If we could have them step back farther and realize that all of us are looking at the same thing and we want great service. I mean, that's the only purpose for doing this, great service for our patients. Staff with an ownership mentality, become better leaders, and make enough money that we can save it and have choices at some point in our life. I mean, this is just not that hard to do. And I feel sorry for the doctors that struggle with it because there is a way out of this.
Yeah. And it really is. I have the letter that Woody got years ago from the ADA. It was almost like an unofficial cease and desist letter, that's when he created the name, The Profitable Dentist. And it says, how dare you use the words profitable and dentist in the same sentence? It's hubris, and it sullies the profession, and it's all this kind of thing. And Woody said he thought about it for a long time and just wrote back. So is what you're saying that the only good dentist is an unprofitable dentist? Because if that's the case, none of us are going to be around very long. But and that goes back to the mid to late 80s. So I always struggle with that. I can sense it. I mean, if you're aware, I get that a lot. And
you're a businessman. You're a businessman, but I as I study more business, I realize that the only reason to have a business is at some point to sell it,
right,
or pass it on. I mean, I had one doctor. He was going to have surgery. He was 64, and I'd never met him. I don't even know what he looks like. And he was in Vail, and he said, "I'm going to have to take, I had scoliosis. I have scoliosis. I'm going to have surgery. I need an associate." And I'm going, "Well, tell me about your practice." He says, "Well, I've got 4 ops, and my wife works there, and I have an assistant, and I work really hard for 9 months, and it's usually kind of a one and done deal. And it looks like I'm going to lose my building. I own the building, but Vail wants to buy it, and but I think I need if I'm not going to be able to practice." Like I said, "Have you saved any money?" And he goes, "Well," and he goes, "I've got $12 million in such and such, and I own the building. They're going to be $4 million." I'm going, why are we having this conversation?
Right. That's literally
I went, but he still thought, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?" And I said, "Are you ever going to retire?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, but I want to make sure I have enough." And I went, "There's no way you could have spent that money. You learned a lesson young that you're frugal and live below your means and stuff like that." And he ended up selling it to the associate. Basically, I said, "Go find some kid that had missionaries that got eaten by somebody and never got a break in their life. Just give them the practice, And he practically did that. So again, it just I wish there was some drug I could give the doctors to know that there is hope. Way out. It's almost like when I see and talk to these people that I never see. I mean, I'm talking on the phone. I'm creating a face and voice for them. It's almost like I've met them in a maze, and I know my way around in the maze. He's going, I don't know what to do. I've been in here for years. I'm running out of food, and I don't know what to do. I feel like, and I turn and I just karate kick the side of the maze. I said, "It's 1/4-inch sheetrock.
Right.
Just knock a hole in there and go that way." Well, and they would say, "I can't do that. That's not fair, is it?" It's fair. Okay. It's fair to take a running start at this and not have to reinvent the wheel and stuff. So that's why The Profitable Dentist was so good. Or it is so good. I didn't intend to use the past tense, but
no, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Because you give the best people out there where it falls apart maybe is there's no learning without application. Where it falls apart is our inability or lack of commitment to act on what they hear from the professionals. So
So I'm looking at our time here. We've gone over.
I know.
That's okay. You are chock full of
Okay.
valuable
Okay.
information.
Whatever.
I
Okay.
will share something with you that I saw you do.
Uh-oh.
You had a video in a presentation once of the escalator. You remember the escalator?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I'll let you tell that. I looked at that. So I've used
It's hilarious.
that how many times. I'll send it to people and say, why, again, why are you asking me this question? Everything you need right in front of you, just do something. So I'll let you share the escalator. I don't think we can show it.
You actually can go online and just say man trapped on escalator.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this guy's dressed in a business suit and then a lady that's dressed kind of, and they're going up the escalator and he goes, tick, 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 and he goes, and he goes, crap. He's going, oh my gosh, I can't believe this has happened today. And the lady's going, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. And she hasn't moved. She's still on the escalator. What do we? She said, I don't know. She said, well, they're going to fix it. You just wait here. They're going to fix it, and hello, we're trapped on an escalator. And then finally the repair guy comes up and, he's below on the other escalator and it's moving up and it goes boom like that. And he goes, oh no, now I'm trapped. So but watch it. It's just called man trapped on escalator.
And I think that's where a lot of practice owners are right now. They feel they're trapped and they're not. So when you're watching this, the first thing you're thinking is, and it sort of comes through and you think, why don't you just walk up the steps? And it's like it never occurs to them. So I think that's a good story or metaphor. I don't know how long ago I saw you do that. It was a few years, but it's always a thing that stuck with me. And I think it's a good sort of a good metaphor, a good story to help a lot of practice owners, docs who are stuck they're stuck and they've chosen to stay stuck. They're waiting for something. They're waiting for somebody to come fix the escalator instead of just start moving ahead and figure it out as we go. So Dr. Abernathy, as always, you are just a wealth of information. Anybody who might want to reach out, how could they get a hold of you?
Call 1-800-BABE. No,
okay.
It's just my last name, Abernathy, Abernathy, 2004 at yahoo.com.
Okay. And I know, and you have been very generous with time and thoughts and opinions in a lot of the Facebook groups. And I know you have a sort of an active social media presence, but enough that they can get a feel for what you do. And I think that helps a lot. It helps a lot for people to especially dentists who just realize maybe for the first time they're the practice owner or first time since they started the thing that there is a way out, but you do need to keep moving forward. So awesome. With that, we'll wrap this one up, call it to a close. I again can't thank you enough. Honored to have you on as always. You're one of the big voices in the profession. So with that, we'll close this. Docs, hang in there, take the actions. The beauty of this is you can watch this over and over and over and, probably see something new each time. And really, there's a lot here. I have about 3 pages of notes again with my highlighter even. So thanks for that. So next time, practice owners, Dr. Abernathy, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.